Morning and good afternoon, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today on our first webinar, Audio Basics for Meeting and Conferences. Let me introduce ourselves. Myself, I am Ritendra Pudar, part of Systems Application Team in Shure Middle East and Africa. Along with me, Anish Samuel, who is also the part of Systems Application Team in Shure Middle East and Africa, is joining, right? So, as you guys know that we are working from home, we are having our home offices nowadays. Everybody is having work to do from home because of the current situation, and it is very important to have a right home setup to do the job, day-to-day business. And most of our job is mostly dependent on the conference calls like Skype for Business, BlueJeans, and Link, right? So it is very important to have the right setup. If you know, we are mostly doing this calls over Skype for Business, BlueJeans, and Link. So the communication is the must. So in a conference call, for example, you're running a conference call and audio fails, you can't run the meeting, you can't do the conference. Effective communication requires the right sound system. And we have done our setup over here. So let us show you what we have done for this webinar. We are using Shure MB5, especially me, I'm using Shure MB5 digital condenser microphone connected with USB with my corporate laptop. And the laptop is also having the Logitech webcam. And I'm listening through Shure SRH 145 headphone, which is connected to analog 3.5 mm jack. My partner Anish is also having another Shure Motive MV51 digital large diaphragm condenser microphone and having the headphone 3.5 mm jack. It's also having Logitech camera connected with the laptop. So why Motive? Why? So the microphone what we are using is having plug and play feature. You just need to connect, quick setup, no driver requires to connect with your laptop. It's having built-in 3.5 mm headphone output, so you can straight away connect your headphone with MV5 or MV51 microphone. It offers you a smartphone, PC, or Mac compatibility. Most important, it also has built-in DSP, limiter, compressor, equalizer to improve the intelligibility, your voice pickup, right? MV5, the one what I'm using, is having 3 DSP presets mode, vocals, flat and instrument. So depending on what is your use, you can use that specific mode. MV51 is even better. It's having 5 DSP preset mode, speech, singing, flat, acoustic, instrument, and loud. It offers a seamless integration with AV application and soft codec like Skype, BlueJeans, Teams, etc. Right? Talking about the installation, it's having nice way of installing it for your home office. You can have the flexible mounting option like you see in this slide. MV51 as well is having flexible mounting options. Yeah. It's having durable touch front panels. So having this kind of microphone for your home office will help a lot to have the effective communication. Remember, audio is important for any kind of conference call, what you do nowadays, right? In addition to that, we also have option for the content creator or someone who wants to have the serious microphone with various options of changing the polar pattern depending on what you need. Shure MB88 Plus. Yeah. So without further ado, I don't want to take much time on this discussion. Let's talk on the topic. So I'm going to hand over the floor to my colleague Anish. He'll take you through a couple of topics and then I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratan. Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Anish Samuel, and I represent the Shure Applications team. Today's webinar topic is audio basics for meeting and conference rooms. The purpose of this webinar is to give you the experience and knowledge of how to ensure good sound quality in your typical business situations, to bridge the gap between your own technical background and the world of professional audio. It will also help you to adapt to both legacy meeting and conferencing equipment, and also it will help you with the latest designs. The agenda of today's webinar is spread across 6 modules. So the first part is sound systems, what comprises of a sound system, the basic building blocks of a sound system, its purpose, and all the other factors. Part 2 is the microphone. We discuss different form factors of the microphone. Part 3 is wired or wireless mode of deployment of a microphone based on your use cases. Part 4 is actually audio networking, which is more or less the trend nowadays. So we'll be heavily focusing on technologies like Dante that can help you in sending the audio over a regular LAN network. Part 5 and Part 6 will deal mostly on use cases where you have like meeting rooms, huddle rooms, large conference rooms, parliaments, and based on the venue, you can pick and choose what kind of audio equipment can help you get the desired results. So that is being discussed in Part 5 and 6. So moving on to the introductions, your goal that we focus on here is primarily to provide the best sound quality. So as you may know that since the last 90 years, Shure has learned a lot about creating good quality sound. And it is our responsibility, and also we want to help you do the same, and we want to help you realize the importance of providing sound quality as an end customer or a consultant, or in whichever line of business you are in. So sound quality is not an absolute term. It actually depends on the context. So what comprises of good sound quality will be different for music when you compare it with speech. So in this particular topic or webinar, we are going to focus on creating great and intelligible sound for speech. So moving on to the next slide, we are going to discuss the importance of sound quality. So music, when we talk about music, music is all about fidelity. So achieving great sound quality in music requires the accurate reproduction of the entire frequency range of the instruments. So as you may know that in music, there are different combination of instruments, and all these different fundamental and overtone frequency can produce music of great beauty, and it can further be heightened by the reverberations within the room. As you may know, normally you might have seen it in auditoriums or opera houses. The speech, on the other hand, is totally about intelligibility, which is totally a different animal. The goal of intelligibility is the easy understanding of words being spoken. While it may seem that it is very easy, the fact that interference from unwanted sounds can have a profound effect on our ability to accurately perceive speech. So the great sound is actually quite tricky to achieve when you have enemies of great sound present within a room, like a reverberation and reflection, all of that. So in this particular webinar, we'll be focusing on practical techniques that can support in eliminating or reducing it to a greater extent. The next slide. We are going to discuss about the room. The room is actually a critical factor in sound system design and performance. So it is actually the type of room, how large it is, how many people are participating, and what they are going to do, all determine what is needed in that room in terms of audio intelligibility. So the acoustic characteristics of a room has a significant impact on what approaches we need to do to make the microphone or the audio system to be practical. So we also focus on sound reinforcement. Sound reinforcement is a scenario which is defined to make sound louder and delivering it to an audience. Say for example, if the room is quite big and the person is speaking from one end and the person is not, the listener is not able to hear at the other end, that's when you need something called a sound reinforcement. So this particular webinar is focused on how to identify each room and deploy a solution based on that particular room. Now we move on to the AV conferencing slide. With AV conferencing, there are two sections, you can say. Like, one group of participants is in one room, which is called the near end, and the other group is in a room which is at the far end or the remote location. So audio, in order for the conferencing to be effective, the audio should be highly intelligible for both the rooms, like for the near end and the far end. So what you actually hear is actually controlled by the owner of the other end, and as a user or as a AV technology specialist, you will only be able to control the audio that you are going to send out. So this particular webinar is designed to give you the information you need to make sure that the room and the audio equipment are complementing each other. Moving on to room acoustics and intelligibility. Each room has an acoustic signature. The size, shape, furnishings, and physical materials combine to define how sounds behave within that particular space. So the more reflective surfaces there are within the room, the more lively or reverberant it sounds. So the larger the room, the longer the acoustic pathways are, and it might create more delay and more opportunities for intelligibility issues. The rooms with a lot of absorptive materials such as carpeted floors and upholstered furnitures will help minimize reflected sounds, and it will also aid in preserving intelligibility. But if the room is heavily covered with glass and other reflective surfaces, it can create intelligibility issues. And our whole aim is to position the microphones and loudspeakers in such a way that we can maximize the intelligibility and avoid any kinds of unwanted feedback or any other issues with the sound quality. Moving on, we are going to discuss about the sound system basics. So basically, there are three reasons to have a sound system. One is sound reinforcement, to make the sound louder so that the people who are far away from the talker can hear clearly. The second is transmission, to send the audio to another location so that listeners can hear it. The transmission can be one way, like a radio broadcast, or two way, like a video conferencing. The third is recording, to capture the audio in a format that can be replayed later or preserved for historical reasons. So what is the goal of a sound system? So regardless of the purpose, a sound system has three goals. First, to ensure audibility, that you can hear me properly. Second is to provide intelligibility, so that you can understand me properly. And third is to preserve fidelity, so that the sound is not annoying or fatiguing at all, and the listener can lock on to what the person is speaking and understand it clearly. So what are the elements of a sound system? So the sound system used for sound reinforcement or AV conferencing has the following basic elements. The source, typically a person speaking into a microphone. The microphone that converts the acoustic energy of sound into an electrical audio signal. A mixer, which combines multiple audio signals together. Signal processing equipment that improves the audio by eliminating echo, reducing noise, compensating for level variations. You can add noise cancellation, acoustic echo cancellation, feedback suppression in some DSPs. You can even have parametric EQ. So all the DSP does is make the audio signal be tuned in such a way that it is perfect for that particular scenario. The next is amplifiers and loudspeakers that converts the audio signal back to an acoustic energy, which can be heard by the listeners. So moving on to the next slide, what we explained in the last slide, it is being pictorially represented here. So a person is talking from a podium his microphone, his sound is being captured by a microphone, which is a transducer. It converts audio signal to electrical signal, and it sends the audio signal to a mixer. So a mixer, it can be like a hub that connects multiple microphones, or it can mix the microphone signal with the presentation audio. So the mixer then after further mixing, it will send to the audio processor, where all the functions like noise cancellation, acoustic echo cancellation, feedback suppression, all of that can be in place, and fine tune the quality, adjust volume and gain levels, and then further send it to the amplifier and for the loudspeakers. So mostly nowadays you can see that the mixer and amplifier are one single unit, like the Shure P300 mixer. So it can support you in achieving all the desired functionality for a particular room. Moving on, the next slide is showing the latest trends in technology. So what you see here is basically the Shure MXA 910 microphone, which is defined as number 1, and the MXA 310, which is number 2. So these are the cutting edge array technology microphones that are implemented. The Shure MXA 910 has close to 100 microphone elements, and it can support your meeting room scenarios. It can be aimed precisely on speaker positions, and it can follow the speaker to an extent, and all that can be configured using a web-based browser. So all the microphone requires is a PoE connection from the switch. The PoE will supply power to the MXA microphones, and it will in turn supply the signal over Dante. The signal being transmitted over Dante can be further processed on the DSPs like the Shure P300, which is illustrated in as numbers 3 and 4. And further the signal can be sent to the far end via video conferencing, which is listed as number 7. And further played to the speakers, as number 9. So as you can see in number 8, it's a podium, which is an additional connectivity. So the Shure P300 shown in number 3 can mix the signal along with the microphone signal from number 1. So the room A is one scenario what we discussed now. Room B is exactly the same, but the microphone is different. What we are looking at is the MXA 310, which pretty much gives you the same functionality. And room A and B are connected over video conferencing, either over the internet or VPN. So moving on to the next slide, we are going to discuss the key audio concepts and the terminologies. It plays an important part in your understanding of sound systems for conferencing. So we'll discuss on volume and loudness, the inverse square law, sound reinforcement, voice lift, gain, feedback, gain before feedback, direct and indirect, ambient sound, etc. So moving on to the next slide, volume and loudness. So the human hearing mechanism is very highly sensitive and covers an extremely wide range of loudness. To make calculations easier, sound measurements are typically expressed in decibels or dB. The decibel is the number that represents a ratio of two values of quantity such as voltage or acoustical pressure. It is a logarithmic ratio, it is actually scaling a very large measurement range down to a much smaller and much more usable range. So typically for a human, the common range of SPL or sound pressure level extends from the threshold of hearing, which is like 0 dB SPL, to the threshold of pain, which is 120 dB SPL. So constantly being exposed to the threshold of pain, or more than 120 dB SPL, can be very painful, and you can have like hearing damage or permanent hearing damage can happen, when constantly exposed to higher levels. So our whole aim is to, for a sound reinforcement system in a meeting room, is to simply bring down the low-level speech to a normal, clear conversational level at all listener positions, about 70 dB SPL. Moving on to the inverse square law, it's actually pretty simple. The sound waves that are generated, they are governed by the inverse square law, meaning that by the doubling of the distance, the sound gets reduced at a level which is like 6 dB from the source. So as you can see in the pictorial representation, there are several microphones placed at strategic locations. The person sitting, on the chair, a microphone is placed like 1 feet from him, and the second microphone is placed at 2 feet, which is double of 1 feet, and then so on and so forth. So at every doubling distance, doubling of the distance, you can see that the audio level drops by 6 dB. So if the person is effectively, his sound signal is captured at 74 dB SPL by the first mic, the second mic will only be able to capture it at 68 dB, and so on and so forth. So there is, to reiterate, there is no, a microphone doesn't have what people call as a microphone reach. A microphone only simply responds to the sound wave at its location. Moving on to the next slide, we are going to discuss direct versus indirect ambient sound. So when sound waves leave the source, we are talking about a meeting room scenario. When sound waves leave the source, they spread out in all directions. So direct sound, travels the shortest path. So as you can see in the pictorial representation, the person who's speaking, his microphone audio goes directly, his audio goes directly into the microphone, which is taking the shortest path called as the direct sound. While some of his audio waves will be passing through or will be bouncing off throughout the reverberant surfaces of the room, which is called as the reflective sound. So again, rooms with hard reflective surfaces like glass or concrete will tend to cause or muddy or create hollow sounds that reduces intelligibility and increases listener fatigue. So Carl, if you have, I'm sure you might have made calls in such rooms, and we often get complaints that the rooms, the person sitting inside the room is as if he's speaking from a box or a barrel, so that is because of such intelligibility issues. So how we should, as an audio professional, we need to make sure that the directs to the reflected sound ratio is very high. The direct sound should be very high, and we should see how we can treat the reflected sounds, how to bring it down. Moving on to the next slide, we are going to discuss about noise. The noise is any unwanted sound that is not desired in a sound source, in a desired sound source, is considered as noise. Like obvious sound noise, noise sources are like light fixtures, HVAC, and sounds coming from outside the meeting room. There are some sounds that are coming from the meeting participants as well, like typing, shuffling of papers, buzzing, smartphones, footsteps, etc. These are also sources of unwanted sounds. While modest level of background noises are acceptable, just to keep the floor live. But depending on the intended use of the space, excessive noise will degrade speech intelligibility. So like reflected noise, the ambient noise level might be relatively consistent throughout the room, like HVAC can be relatively consistent. But the direct sound from the sound source always decreases with distance. So that means the microphone, if it is moved far away from the talker, the ratio of speech to noise decreases, reducing intelligibility. Moving on to the next slide. So we are going to discuss about the gain. The audio gain is simply the difference between, it's like the dB, difference in dB when the audio system is on versus when the audio system is off. That is when a speaker is talking through the microphone, how much of a boost is he receiving based on the sound system, and when the sound system is turned off, how much is the difference. So that's pretty much the explanation for acoustic gain. So how much louder the sound is at the listener position when the sound system is turned on compared to having no sound system at all. Next, we move on to the topic called feedback. The feedback is an acoustic phenomenon when a sound is being amplified and recycled back into an audio equipment. As you can see in the pictorial representation, your speaker, a person talks from a microphone. This audio signal is picked up by the microphone and it is sent to the mixer, further to the amplifier, to the speaker, and again the microphone picks it again, and this goes into a vicious cycle. So what happens is, unwanted this particular vicious cycle or this unwanted noise keeps on growing until you can hear an unwanted howling or squealing that that normally can result in destroying one of the audio sources, so audio devices. So it is always useful to bring it down and to stop it also, because to save the sound system from being destroyed. Next, we move on to the gain before feedback. So the gain before feedback is defined as how loud you can increase the volume of amplifier before causing feedback. So this is exactly what we discussed in the previous slide. So when there is a microphone gain is excessively increased, it can result in feedback. It keeps on continuously. So it is our responsibility to aim the microphone far away from the speaker, and the gain levels are adjusted in such a way that it will fairly give us an idea when the system can go into a feedback kind of scenario. The next, we move on to the sound reinforcement and voice lift explanation. So a sound reinforcement system is designed to amplify the sound to a level that compensates for the fact that some listeners, within a room cannot hear the talker acoustically at all. So this generally speaks about a larger rooms where the speaker, where the talker, his audio does not reach the far end listener who's within the room itself because of the distance. So you have to employ a sound reinforcement system so that the farthest listener can easily hear and lock on to what the speaker is talking about. So when we talk about a voice lift system, a voice lift system is a totally different scenario where in some meeting rooms the listeners can listen to each and every speaker, but there might be some difficulty, like some amount of straining the person needs to take care, in order to hear what the speaker is trying to convey. So a voice lift system is intended merely to bring the listener closer and restore some of the lost speech level. So the voiceless system provides the minimum amount of acoustic gain that is necessary to deliver intelligibility. So in a properly tuned voiceless system, you can hear the farthest talkers clearly without even realizing that the system is turned on. So again, in some rooms, there can be a discussion scenario where you can use like a speaker and a microphone hybrid, and you can have a mix minus scenario where mix minus scenario is like you are employing a mixer to provide a clean feed of an audio signal minus a particular microphone that can that can create feedback. So it is a very strategically placed intelligent setup, which is actually a setup of a mixing nuts roll or a matrixing mixer. So mix minus is often used to prevent echoes or feedbacks in broadcast or sound reinforcement. So moving on to the next topic, the microphone. We are going to discuss about the different form factors of microphones here. So the microphones, the different form factors of the microphones are handheld, body worn, table and overhead microphones. So when it comes to handheld microphones, they are the basic workhorses of audio. They can be held in the hand or mounted on a stand. So the handheld microphone works well in situations where multiple people, you can pass around the microphone, taking turns, and a handheld mic on a stand will also be convenient for placement in the audience for questions. So normally you can see that vocal microphones are usually equipped with a grill and pop filter, designed to control plosives. So plosives are like like the popping of certain alphabets like P and all. You can see a plosive sound. So in order to cut that, the microphone is equipped with a grill and pop filter. Moving on to the next slide, the other form factors are, the most common varieties of body-worn microphones are lavalier and head-worn. So they are designed to be very small and unobstructed while they're keeping the user's hands free. So the microphone element is fairly closer to the speaker and the speaker's mouth, and it is fairly even, and lavalier microphones are usually attached to the clothing, and head-worn microphones are attached to the one ear or both ears, depending on the scenario. So a head-worn microphone is more suitable to be used with a louder sound system in a larger conference room. The other types of microphones are tabletop, microphones that can be directly mounted to a table or podium or attached to a base. That makes it fixed, and it is the meeting scenario is fairly fixed, and you cannot move around the microphone. It will help you get the best gain out of the out of the system, and there will be minimal interference from the room noises. And you have other microphones called as boundary microphones, which are portable as well, and they are flat in shape, and it will give you a very low visual profile. And once you place it on a hard surface, it has an advantage of minimizing problems with reflective sound. The other type of microphones are gooseneck and wireless gooseneck. It brings the microphone element closer to the speaker's mouth, and in scenarios where holes or mounting structures cannot be built onto a table, you can use this and utilize for meetings. Then you have the hybrids, like the conferencing microphones, which are like a speaker and a microphone hybrid, and it can be used in multi-member discussion or conferencing systems. So they combine the microphones, loudspeakers, and controls in a single unit, which delivers good quality sound in a large or acoustically difficult room. Where traditional sound reinforcement systems may suffer from coverage or feedback limitations. Moving on, the next type of microphone is overhead microphones, which are directly mounted above the ceiling. They have very high directional pickup, and it has to be strategically placed in order to avoid noise and reverberation to a minimum, and it has to be aimed precisely so that the coverage and the accurate capture of the seating area is done. So moving on to the next slide, the latest trend that you see is array microphones. They combine multiple internal microphone elements, like the Shure MXA 910 and MXA 310. MXA 910 has close to 100 microphone elements. You can have up to 8 channels of steerable coverage. You can place it, as you can see on the left side of the picture, there is an MXA 910, placed on the ceiling, which is rectangular, and you can precisely aim the lobes to cover the speakers, and it is totally managed from a DSP based from a software that is built onto the microphone itself. DSP is also built onto the microphone itself. It is very intelligent. And on the right side, you can see the MXA310 that gives you like up to 4 channels, and you can have different pickup patterns like cardioid, supercardioid, hypercardioid, and then there is special patterns like toroidal pattern that can give you excellent overhead noise rejection. So it goes it delivers great corporate sound without any issues in covering up room aesthetics and all. Moving on to the next slide. There are different microphone techniques that is useful whenever we are using a microphone during meeting and conferences. The 3 important ones are, you have to speak in a clear, natural voice. You have to always aim the microphone towards the mouth and away from unwanted noise. Avoid excessive handling of the microphone, drumming on the table, or shuffling of papers near the microphone. So moving on to the next slide. So for every sound system, the signal is normally transferred via a cable. So audio connection can be described by the signal level or the connector type and the wiring scheme. So there are typically 3 signal levels. One is microphone, line level, and aux level. So mic signals are ranging in typical millivolts, and it is what comes out of a microphone directly. So it is very essential that the microphone level is being connected to a microphone level input itself. Otherwise, the line level is typically like in the 1 volt range. So what happens if you connect a microphone signal to a line level input, it might not give you a signal reading. So it is always better to connect a like-to-like input. Similarly, when you connect a line level to a microphone input, it can create distortions. Aux level signals are typically found on consumer audio equipment. So also there are different kinds of cabling, like a balanced cable and balanced cable. So balanced cable have 3 conductors. That is, one of them is the shield, and the other 2 will be carrying a signal. The next is unbalanced. It will be having 2 conductors. One will be the shield, and one will be carrying the signal. So a balanced cable and a balanced connector can give you excellent rejection for electromagnetic interference and unwanted noise, hums, and all that. So so as you can see in this slide, XLR is normally associated with the balanced connector, and the quarter inch, 3.5 inch is normally associated with unbalanced, and RCA is normally fading now from the common usage. The RCA plug was primarily associated with consumer sound equipment. Now it is sometimes used for video, but it is slowly fading out. The block connector that you see is actually used for RS-232 or RS-485. So it is normally used for terminating cables on the field, and in scenarios where the cable won't be connected or disconnected, often. So moving on to the next slide, we are going to discuss about the USB connection. The USB connection or connector provides the, it is like an access point for connecting digital audio signals to a PC. It is for a use with a software that can handle recording, editing, or video conferencing like that. So audio is nowadays audio is also being available on USB-based connections as well to be used with the soft codec. So RJ45 is a connector that you see, that can be found in most IP applications, and the shielded version is used for voice over IP applications. So the connector is becoming the norm in video conferencing where audio is routed over a network. So with this, I hand over the floor to Ritin. So he'll be taking you through the wired or wireless module. Thank you. And if you have any queries, please feel free to get back to us.
Thank you very much, Anish. Wow, great information was shared. Hoping that our participants are enjoying this. Okay, so let's move to the next topic. That's wired or wireless. Okay, so starting with wired microphone, there is one part of every wired microphone that always seems to be literally a stumbling block. And what is that? The cable, right? So if you see in this slide, there are a couple of microphone units are connected all together, but at least one cable needs to go to the rack room, the equipment room where the equipments, all the AV equipments are placed. So if the cable is exposed, it can become an issue for the guy who is going to use that room. We don't want that, right? But if suppose the table is having the option to have holes, drilling, it's easy to manage the cable. You can hide the cable. And that is the best way of using the wired system, right? So there are several pros and cons of using the wired microphones. Let's talk about this. As we discussed already, if presenter is moving around in front of the screen or whiteboard and cable is exposed, it can cause tripping hazard. Cables take up space on meeting room tables and can get tangled and cause issue as well. If cable get tangled, maybe you will be having the loose connectivity. Cable can become crimped, connector can become loose. So at that point, you are just gonna have unnecessary hum and noise because it's the cable. Any kind of loose connectivity creates the issues. So not only the cons, wired microphone can be the lifesaver as well. When, say, for example, you're in a crowded RF environment and RF band is lacking, then wired microphone becomes a lifesaver. You don't have to search for available frequency. In a crowded environment, RF spectrum-based environment, you don't need to look on RF frequencies because wired is just point to point. Troubleshooting is much easier in wired microphone. Why? Because if anything goes wrong, you know where is the problem. You can just easily troubleshoot by replacing the cable or the microphone. Now, talking about wireless microphones, wireless systems. So what is the convenience with that? First of all, there is no cables, right? So wireless microphone is just the microphone with no cable. So the audio is going to be transmitted through the RF, right? It offers you mobility with handheld and body pack microphone. In a meeting room, boardroom, and conference room, if the presenter needs to move, walk, and talk. So with the help of handheld and body pack, you can easily move and you're always going to have the audio transmitting to the system, right? The audio will go directly to the receiver and then you can have it anywhere, wherever you need. No drilling holes necessary. And in a typical meeting room, boardroom, and conference room, when you need to install the microphone, you also need to manage, if it is wired, you need to manage the cable and you have to have holes on table, which is not always the favorable solution because interior designer don't want to do that. So at that point, it helps. Your microphone is going to be somewhere in the rack or credenza on top of the credenza. Whenever you are going to have the meeting, you undock it, put it on table, do your meeting, and then you can put it back to the charging station now, right? Talking about wireless, there are several spectrum available to use the wireless system. UHF TV band that is having the range of 417 megahertz to 900 somewhere. So that is spectrum which we can utilize. We can also have 1.9 gig, which is DECT, done digitally enhanced cordless telecommunication based spectrum. We can also utilize Wi-Fi 2.4 and 5 gig of a spectrum. Another most important thing for the wireless system is the battery, and it has to have a proper performance. So wireless microphone system offers the battery charging solution, and it can also monitor with the system nowadays, which are available in the market. Talking about wireless microphone, there are mostly four components which are important. The first one is transmitter. In this slide, you can see there are four different form factors: handheld, body pack, and tabletop. In tabletop, you see boundary and gooseneck microphone. So the second component is receiver. Receiver is the device which is going to receive the signal wirelessly through the transmitter using RF spectrum. So one thing what you need to understand over here that each transmitter need to have its own individual frequency, which will be assigned with with the receiver. It will be paired with the receiver. So that plays very important role. You have to have separate frequency for utilizing the wireless system. Now, the third component over here is antenna. To transmit the RF signal from the transmitter, you have to have antenna, which will receive the signal from the transmitter and then goes to feed into the receiver. And the sound system. Sound system is basically once the signal is received by the receiver, then it's just the matter of what you want to do with that audio. That is decided by the sound system, right? When we talk about RF based wireless microphone system, the most important thing what we need to consider is the frequency radio interference. RF is not only utilized by the wireless microphone system, it's also getting utilized by other parties. So it is very important to not to have any kind of interference. Imagine if you have a room which is going to be used by the CEO of the company, of your company, and he is giving this speech, and if any interference happen, which we don't want, right? It can hamper a lot of it can create a lot of issues uh, if it happens, right? So we don't want that. So what we need to understand how to develop the right wireless microphone system. So for that, you need to understand about the frequency compatibility. Each wireless system, as I already mentioned, that each wireless system must operate on unique interference-free channel. The more system in use, the more challenging it becomes. Having 2 or 3 channels are not an issue, but when you're talking about multiple channels to work together, you have to have a proper frequency coordination, right? AV managers must have a protocol in place using which they can do the proper frequency coordination. Select the system that minimizes the potential interference. So nowadays in the market, there are many systems which are frequency agile, right? Which gives the possibility to tune to a number of different frequencies within their operating range. So the system is compatible by themselves to offer you the right frequency to be used. This is critical because nearly all legally available spectrum is shared by different types of users and wireless devices. The frequency spectrum is also getting used by the mobile operator, which are the dominator of the wireless spectrum. So it is very important to find out the right frequency in the given environment. So the process of finding and assigning mutually compatible frequency for all systems in use is called frequency coordination, right? Other important factor what we need to understand is the antenna placement. It is very important to have the clear line of sight for the receiver with antenna. If you see in the slide, the antenna is placed on height, avoiding the audience. As you know that human body is made of salt and water, which absorbs RF frequencies, RF signals. So it is very important to place the antenna in a way that it should not have any kind of absorption because of the audience sitting in front. So having the height helps a lot. So please keep it in mind. Also, if you know, body pack is always against the antenna because it's always going to be placed behind, and it creates the absorption because of the human body. So in such scenario, it is recommended to use the antenna next to the presenter, which can offer the line of sight to have the easy reception. Now, talking about digital wireless system, most companies are offering digital wireless system nowadays. Uh, Initially, it was mostly on the analog side. So the benefit of having digital system is basically to offer better sound quality and spectral efficiency. Yeah, talking about the spectral efficiency, consider if you are having a analog wireless microphone system which can offer 10 to 12 channels in a given spectrum. you can have almost more than double by using digital wireless microphone system. Our ULXD and QLXD digital wireless microphone system offers 67, where analog system can only offer up to 12, right? So there is one challenge what you can have with digital wireless system is the latency. But today's digital wireless system are engineered to minimize the latency issues. Yeah. Now, other thing, remote monitoring and control. Most of the modern wireless microsystem are designed with network. So they're going to have the RJ45 connection to offer the remote monitoring for RF output, audio output, and battery life, which offers remote control configuration and monitoring. Right? Talking about this, what you see here is our Microflex Complete wireless system, which also offers remote monitoring with the help of the network connection. Talking about the rechargeable battery solution, we offer the new technology which eliminate the memory effect. We use lithium-ion battery technology that offers the accuracy of the battery use. So if the system says it's going to run for 10 hours, that's going to definitely run for 9 hours, 45 minutes. We also need to consider the environmental effect of using the standard battery. What can happen? Imagine if you are having a room which is going to be used every day and you're having multiple channels. You need to replace the battery every day. And imagine it is going to cost you, first of all, and secondly, how much environmental effects are going to happen. You're going to throw the battery that can affect the environment. So considering all these factors, it is always recommended to use the rechargeable battery solution. Now, talking about the next topic, that's audio networking. We're going to quickly talk about a couple of facts over here. We are having a separate audio networking webinar planned upcoming. So that's going to give you the intense knowledge of digital and audio networking session. Over here, a couple of slides to make you guys understand what exactly is this. So talking about this slide, you see there are two schematic. One is for analog and second one is for digital. When we talk about the audio transmission, so the purpose of the audio signal is to reach from the microphone to the speaker. In analog system, it needs to go through the mixer or processor, as it was explained before, then audio processing, then the signal goes to amplifier, and then you listen through the speaker. Yeah. But when we talk about the digital audio system, you have to have your microphone feed into the analog to digital converter. These kind of converter will be connected with the router or network. Then you will be having decoder, which will convert digital signal to analog again, and then you feed in the signal to amplifier, and that goes to the speaker. So the path is completely different than what you saw in analog system. Now, to give you an example of it, 8 channels of audio, imagine if you're having an analog-based system, you have to run independent 8 analog cable to your mixer or the DSP, which is nothing, just adding unnecessary stress in your installation. You have to run 8 independent cables, then it can have the loose connectivity issues. If the proper termination has not been done, that can affect the quality of the audio. And these cables are expensive as well. So consider all these facts. Now, talking about 8 channels of audio in Dante. Dante is the most, I would say, favorable networked audio solution as of now. Audio protocol. Why? Because it offers a lot of flexibility. Now, having a look on this slide, you can see it's just a matter of connecting 3 cables to the network switch and your signal is into your mixer or DSP. It helps a lot in terms of reducing the complexity of the installation. Cables are light and inexpensive. Cat5e cable is easily available and your setup is ready. So you can see the benefit of having the digital system as of now. Now, talking about Dante, Dante is layer 3 based network audio protocol. It offers you 1024 bidirectional channels of uncompressed audio over Ethernet. Audio quality in 24-bit by 48 kilohertz, but you can change that as well with gigabit switch. Offers you low latency, almost near to zero latency, and plug and play solution. You can use with the Dante-based protocol with shared network. What does it mean is basically if you're running any other networked audio protocol other than layer 3 based protocol, you have to have your independent network IT infrastructure to run the audio packets through the network. But with the help of layer 3, I'm talking about Dante. So you can use the existing IT infrastructure. That helps a lot, right? Now, to give you an example with our system, it's pretty much straightforward. If you need 8 channels of audio with MXA310 table array microphone, it's just the matter of connecting 2 Cat5e cable. Our 310 is going to be powered with PoE connection and 1 cable Cat5e network cable to our IntelliMix P300 DSP. And all 8 channels are there in our IntelliMix P300. Now it's just a matter of connecting the right cable, right connection with software and hardware-based conferencing codec. P300 offers you USB connection, so it can go straight away to our it can straight away go to your software-based conferencing codec, which is going to run on your PC, and hardware codec as well using the analog connection. Now the next topic is about the rooms, right? So when we design the audio system, right, you have to first look on the room and decide what exactly the customer is looking for to utilize in that room. So there are certain factors which you need to consider when you design the audio solution. The first one is room size, type, what type of room you have. Seating layout plays a very important role. Number of people attending, how many participants are going to be there, number of speakers, number of presenters, of course, meeting style like one-to-one or one-to-many, or it's a classroom style. So basically you need to know what is the meeting style and the format and what kind of application you need to have in such rooms. For example, sound reinforcement is the need, or AV conferencing. That all factors basically you need to consider when you design the site sound system. Talking about huddle room, as you can see in this picture, it's pretty much straightforward. Huddle room is basically the small room that accommodates 4 to 8 people. You don't need sound and reinforcement for such room. It's small, everybody can hear by themselves, right? No technology required to enhance the audio for this. Sound reinforcement is not required at all. The basic need of huddle room is to have the AV conferencing. If you see in this picture, you have the LCD screen connected with Cisco SX10, and now it's just a matter of sending the right audio signal to the codec. With the help of MXA310, which is showing in the picture, it's pretty much straightforward. So the recommended solution for the huddle room is to have the boundary microphone. You decide whether you want to have the wired or the wireless, right? Talking about the meeting room, it is, as you can see in the slide, meeting room can accommodate up to 30 people, 6 to 30 people. You may or may not need sound reinforcement for such rooms. Why? Because maybe if the meeting room is large and person from one end cannot hear the other end, then you need to offer the sound reinforcement. Otherwise, standard meeting room is okay to have without sound reinforcement. Key application for meeting room is AV conferencing and sometime recording as well. There are two, when we talk about these number of participants, it is very important to have the proper control of the microphone. Otherwise, if unnecessary microphone is open, that can add unnecessary ambient noise of the room, which can go to the far end, which is not recommended. So recommendation is to have an auto mixer which can manage the maximum open channels of the microphone. We don't recommend to have more than 4 talkers to speak together. Tabletop microphone are ideal. When we talk about tabletop microphone, it is ideal to have one microphone shared with one guy, but if budget is stopping doing that, then at that point, one microphone can be shared by two. Now, if customer says, no, I don't want to have anything on table, then you can look on ceiling array microphone, which is going to have its own independent lobes, which can be assigned to the seats. And without having any technology on the table, it can pick all the voices of the talker that can go to the far end. It offers the very convenient and straightforward solution in this case. Talking about boardroom solution, boardroom is nothing. It's somehow like the meeting room, but this kind of rooms are mostly for the CEO, people of the company. So you can imagine the kind of acoustic treatment that can happen in this room and the kind of luxury which can have in this room. So in that case, if the room is acoustically treated, it will be having low ambient noise. And if the room is larger, then in that case, it becomes harder to listen the talker from one end to other end. So at that point, we need to think about having the voice lift system, right? The voice lift system is basically to improve the intelligibility in the room to be heard by each participant with the same manner, right? Key application for boardroom as well is AV conferencing and recording. We recommend to have the automatic mixer over here to manage the number of open channels of the microphone. Other thing, as I already mentioned, that these rooms are having expensive tables and interior designers, and the customer is always hesitant to have the holes on those kind of table. So having the wireless solution helps a lot. Wireless tabletop microphone is the ideal, but if you have a customer who don't want to have anything on table because they will be having other activity over there, so having ceiling array microphone is ended, right? Now, such rooms are always having important discussion, and the discussion should not leak out. So encryption is always requested by the customer for such events, for such kind of room. Our MXA 910, 310, P300, and Microflex Wireless, and all other microphone what we can offers you the encryption that helps a lot to be specified in such rooms. Talking about training room, classroom, and lecture halls, as you can see in the picture, it's quite some sizable room, big room. Most of the time, you will see that the tables and chairs are adjustable, different layout all the time. Movable tables to allow variety of seating arrangement, which can make audio cabling a challenge. You cannot think about having the wired solution. The larger and more reverberant the room, the more need there is for a sound reinforcement system. If the room is large, definitely you need to think about having the reinforcement system. Acoustic becomes the challenging for such a large room, so it is always recommended to have a reinforcement to have the proper communication or the discussion between the students or the participant who are going to use this room. Now, smaller rooms, if the classrooms are small, then you do not require a sound system, but still need the microphone solution for AV conferencing, recording, or the presentation, or distance learning classrooms require the microphone solution to have the communication to go to the far end. Now, talking about training room, classroom, lecture room, lecturer needs to have the free movement. So preferred solution for the lecturer is body pack, couple of handheld microphone which can be utilized by the student to ask question. But we know that in a classroom, sometimes you will end up in a situation where students start asking question without having the technology. It means, what I mean is, without having the microphone. And if the distance learning classroom session is going on, yeah, local audience can hear it, but the far end can't. So for such kind of scenario, you can think about having the ceiling array microphone, because ceiling microphone is always going to pick up to everyone, and that's having the intelligibility to activate the right channel. If nobody is speaking, the gate of the microphone usually turns it off. So it is always going to activate at the time when somebody speaks, so which gives you better flexibility in terms of picking up everyone. If the room is noisy and reverberant, it is always recommended to have the microphone closer to the participant, to the student. So we recommend to have the desktop microphone. Now, talking about room reinforcement for the larger room, you have to have a proper mix minus setup to avoid the feedback. What does it mean is whatever microphone is on, the speakers which are closer to the microphone should not be on. And that thing basically can happen with the help of DSP, where you do the mix minus configuration. So it is recommended for having the proper communication in the room for the local discussion. Now, talking about the video conferencing rooms, video conferencing, as we already discussed a couple of times, it allows 2 or more distance location to communicate via audio or video. There are basically 2 types of codecs nowadays: soft codec and hardware codec. Soft codec is like Skype, BlueJeans, or Microsoft Teams, and hardware like Cisco and Polycom. Recommended solution for that is also like Bondry and Gooseneck desktop microphone to maintain the close proximity. But again, if customer doesn't want to have anything on table, ceiling array microphone is the ideal solution. When we talk about the conference call, it is very important to manage the number of open channels. So a DSP which supports auto mixing is recommended. So auto mixer, and the second factor what is important to be taken care is the echo of the room. Echo is nothing, just listening your voice back with some latency in a conference call. So how to eliminate the echo of the room in the room during the call is via AEC block of the DSP. So using integrated DSP like P300 or IMX room can help you to offer these processing feature. So we recommend that to use that. Right now, talking about multiple participant based sound systems, where you will be having a scenario of one to many or many to many. One to many is pretty much straightforward. You'll be having 1 or 2 presenters sharing the microphone, handle microphone most of the time, or the body pack, and you have the audience just to listen, not to participate. Straightforward system, you can have the PA, you will not end up with having feedback, because if you have placed the microphone in a proper way, considering the speaker placement. But when we talk about many to many requires a lot of consideration. When everybody is having microphone to speak, it is very important to have certain rules to maintain the system, right? So for that, you need to have the discussion system. So in this slide, I'm going to explain you what is the difference between sound reinforcement and discussion. Sound reinforcement is pretty much straightforward. Microphone needs to reach to the speaker, and with the help of mixer, processor, and amplifier. But with the discussion system, you get the option of controlling the microphone. So in discussion system, you will be having certain parties, for example, chairman and delegate. So chairman is always going to have the control of the microphone for other parties, other participant like delegates and VIP, whoever is there. So if chairman doesn't want to have the microphone for someone, he can turn it off. And somebody wants to speak, he can request, and chairman can give the access of the microphone. So that kind of control is possible in discussion system. Talking about seat assignment, straightforward. If you are in a conference call and you came from somewhere and you need to have your identification. So the moment you turn on the microphone, it's going to show your details like your name and what is your profile. So those kind of information is possible in the discussion system. You can assign the seat for a specific type of participant. And you can also offer the interpretation in discussion system. What does it mean is, if the room is having let me put it in a different way. If the room is having a specific language that is not understood by other participant at that point, you can have the interpretation solution with the help of that. interpreter can listen the room and interpret in different language, and the participant can utilize the technology of the room to listen the interpreter rather than listening to the floor. Uh, and the slide over here is showing our MXC Microflex Complete Discussion System, right, which offers these kind of feature. Now let's go a little more in detail about the next level of discussion system. Over here is the conference system. Conference system is also going to have the same features like microphone control, seat assignment, and interpretation at max level. What does it mean is many channels possibility in interpretation. Our system can offer up to 31 channels of interpretation. In addition to that, you can also have the ID and seating verification. What does it mean is if participant is coming from a specific country and any having a specific profile, you can assign the NFC card for him. He comes, insert the card in the system, and it authenticate the system for himself. You can also define roles and privileges. Certain different participant can have different roles and different rights of speaking. That is possible with the system. These kind of meetings are very structured. So you can have the agenda management, uh, uh, also document management. Each and every activity can be recorded and you can prepare the report based on that. You can do voting. You can see the entire meeting activity on external display. For example, seeing the voting result, who is speaking, what's his profile, what is the room layout, the person who is speaking, where exactly is sitting. All these things can be shown on external display. That falls under conference system. So hope you understood the difference between sound reinforcement, discussion, and conference system. Now, talking about the participant, we already discussed a little about this, that the participants can have different role in structured meeting. So delegates are basically those who are there to have their discussion, and they are having certain topics to discuss. So these people can join locally or remotely. So delegates are the part of the many meetings. Chairperson is the person who is going to lead the meeting, control the conference, and give the access of the microphone to different delegates. Interpreter is to interpret in different languages if the meeting is multilingual. Now, secretary is to do all the administrative job for the chairman. Technician is basically who is managing the meetings, configuring the meeting, preparing the agenda, preparing the chip card, NFC card for authentication of the delegates, and system IT administrator. IT administrator is to manage all the networking related uh, issues for many-to-many meetings, basically. Now, to show you a typical setup for many-to-many meeting, if you see the slide, there are a couple of sections or area which is defining all the different types of participant. So, see, the section area number 1 is basically for the chairman or the VIP or special people, the VIP members of the meeting. Now, then podium is for VIP to have the speech, section area number 1. Section number, if you see here, in the audience side, 3 rows are having the conference units. So those are the delegates who are having the right to speak. They are having speaker built in. They can listen by themselves and all. And last 2 rows are for the audience. So they are just there to listen what's happening in the meeting. Area number 2, what you see is for the interpreter. Interpreter is going to have their own separate booth over there. They just listen the floor, listen the discussion of the event, and of course they can interpret in different languages. Area number 4 and 5 are basically for the operator to manage the whole conference, right? Now, to show you the real life scenario, this is a picture of one of the conference city council hall where you have the conference unit. It's exactly same like you saw over here, but in a real life scenario, right? So talking about this, I think we are done with our seminar webinar. What we discussed in that, let's have a quick recap. We learned about sound system, we understood microphone, we learned about wired or wireless system, basics of audio networking. We saw different types of the room and what exactly you can recommend for those kind of room. Multiple participant sound system, what to consider, how does the meeting happens in that. That all is discussed. Hope you guys understood, and this webinar was informative for you guys. You can utilize this knowledge to design the right sound system for your projects. And yeah, fine. Thank you very much, guys. If you have any question, feel free to ask. Yeah, we are here to answer all your queries. Thank you, and have a nice day. Stay tuned for the next webinar, which is going to be next week on Wednesday, again at the same time at 12 p.m. Thank you.